Why do we pay good money to watch someone else's life fall apart? It's a strange quirk of human psychology that we actively seek out stories of misery and ruin, yet we walk out of the theater feeling strangely uplifted. This paradox was born right here, in the ancient Greek amphitheaters during religious festivals honoring Dionysus. They called these dramatic performances tragoidia, which translates quite literally to goat songs. Aristotle defined a true tragedy as an imitation of an action that is serious, complete, and of a specific magnitude. It functions as a precision-tuned emotional machine designed to pull two levers in the human mind: pity and fear. The original blueprint for that machine was drafted in the 4th century BCE. In his theoretical treatise Poetics, the philosopher Aristotle laid out the exact schematics for how to construct this experience. He argued that to achieve the ultimate emotional purification, a release he called catharsis, writers must strictly follow a precise recipe of structural ingredients. This diagram shows the required Aristotelian mechanics. The first mandatory ingredient is altitude. You need a protagonist of high social standing, like a king or a noble, standing above the rest. The logic here is quite simple. To generate maximum impact, their eventual fall from grace has to be incredibly steep. Next, you introduce hamartia, a critical error in judgment or a fatal character flaw. Frequently, this takes the form of hubris, an excessive, blinding pride that compromises the hero's foundation. That hidden flaw eventually snaps, triggering peripeteia. This is the catastrophic reversal of fortune, where the hero's circumstances violently shift from good to terrifyingly bad, directly because of their own actions. But the machine isn't finished until the devastating moment of anagnorisis. Just before the absolute end, the doomed hero must look around the wreckage of their life and finally recognize their own responsibility for the ruin. This specific, inescapable chain of cause and effect, the flaw, the reversal, and the realization, is the engine required to process the audience's suffering into pure catharsis. Over the centuries, new writers took Aristotle's mechanics and heavily modified them. Roman dramatists like Seneca introduced bloody violence, ghosts, and revenge plots, a bloody formula that Renaissance writers eagerly adopted. Shakespeare refined this formula. He retained the classical internal flaws like jealousy, indecision, or ambition, but hurled his characters into overwhelming external and supernatural chaos to see how they would break. This focus on psychological defects was a sharp departure from the era that immediately preceded it. The medieval tradition stripped the hero's internal flaw out of the blueprint completely. Instead, medieval writers operated on the concept of the wheel of fortune. You could be a prosperous, virtuous ruler, and the completely arbitrary, mechanical rotation of fate would simply drag you down into adversity. These early iterations debated a central question: is human destruction caused by our own psychological shortcomings or by the uncaring mechanics of fate? In the 19th century, the tragic hero migrated from the palace to the parlor. Henrik Ibsen replaced noble kings with ordinary citizens grappling with domestic debt and social expectations. Playwright Arthur Miller later codified this monumental shift. He argued that an everyday citizen fighting to secure their personal dignity possesses the exact same tragic stature as ancient royalty. The final evolution arrived with 20th century absurdism. Writers like Samuel Beckett took Aristotle's rigid rules of plot, heroism, and logic and abandoned them entirely. Absurdist tragedy replaces the traditional catastrophic climax and the emotional release of catharsis with existential despair, futility, and endless, meaningless repetition. As cultural belief systems moved from divine destiny to an unpredictable existential void, writers stripped the hero of their agency to accurately mirror the anxieties of their own era. For 2 millennia, the genre has undergone constant mutation. Aristotle's original Poetics rulebook was stretched to accommodate everything from royal revenge plots to traveling salespeople. Yet underneath the shifting costumes and updated settings, the fundamental function of the genre remains completely unbroken. Tragedy exists to force a society to look into a mirror. It provides a contained space to safely confront human vulnerability, deep suffering, and mortality. When we watch these mechanics play out, the collision of pride and consequence, we see the architecture of our own limitations. This recognition offers a philosophical insight that while we cannot control fate or the wheel of fortune, the struggle to remain human within those systems is where our value is truly found. Whether that hero is a doomed Greek king or a modern everyman, tragedy provides the emotional cleansing required to help us endure reality.